The woman everyone thought had everything. They say a woman's life is measured by the things she has achieved, the career, the money, the beautiful home, the respect, the independence. But in Amelia Johnson's world, none of those things seemed to matter. Because at 32, there was still one question people couldn't stop asking. When are you getting married? Amelia had built a life most people dreamed about. She was a successful architect in Lagos. She owned a beautiful apartment overlooking the city. She traveled, she dressed well, she could afford almost anything she wanted. But there was one thing money couldn't buy, and that was peace. When everyone around you kept reminding you that you were running out of time. Every morning, Amelia looked at herself in the mirror and saw a successful woman. But every family gathering, she could feel the world looking at her differently. As if being unmarried had somehow erased everything else she had accomplished. And what Amelia didn't know was that before the year ended, the one man she had spent years forgetting was about to walk back into her life. Sunday dinner was supposed to be about family, good food, laughter, stories. But somehow it always became an interview. Amelia had barely touched her food when her mother cleared her throat. Amelia, you're 32 now. Amelia slowly looked up. She already knew what was coming. Don't you think it's time you started thinking seriously about marriage? Amelia forced a smile. Mom, I am thinking about it. Her mother frowned. Thinking isn't marrying. Sophia lowered her eyes, trying not to laugh. Amelia sighed. Can we please talk about something else? Victoria leaned back. I'm your mother. I'm not asking because I want to disturb you. I'm asking because I worry about you. Amelia looked down at her plate. That was the problem. Nobody thought they were hurting her. Everyone thought they were helping, but every question felt like a tiny reminder that something was wrong with her, and Amelia was beginning to believe them. Then came Sophia's engagement. The entire house was filled with laughter, music, flowers, champagne, photographs. Everyone was celebrating, and Amelia celebrated too. She hugged her sister. She smiled for the cameras. She danced. She even helped adjust Sophia's engagement ring. You're happy for me, right? Sophia asked. Amelia smiled. Of course I am. And she meant it. She truly did. But later that night, after everyone had gone inside, Amelia sat alone in her car. The music from the house was still playing in the distance. She looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror, then at the engagement ring advertisements glowing on her phone. And for the first time, she whispered something she had never admitted aloud. Maybe there's something wrong with me. A tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, because Amelia Johnson had become very good at one thing, pretending she wasn't hurting. 3 weeks later, a private jet landed in Lagos, and a man stepped into the city he had once called home. His name was Michael, 35, successful, confident, a technology entrepreneur who had spent years building his company overseas. To the world. Michael had everything: money, success, recognition, but there was one thing he had never managed to leave behind: a memory, a girl with a stubborn smile, who used to race him to the river when they were children. Amelia. He hadn't seen her properly in years. But some people and no matter how much time passes, never really leave your heart. As Michael looked across the Lagos skyline that evening, he had no idea that fate had already arranged their next meeting. And this time, he wasn't planning to walk away. Amelia wasn't expecting to see Michael that evening. She had gone to the rooftop restaurant simply to have dinner, nothing more. Then she heard a familiar voice behind her. Amelia? She turned and froze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amelia smiled. Michael? He laughed and said, I was beginning to think you'd forgotten me. She shook her head and said, I haven't forgotten you. You've just been gone for half my life. Michael smiled. Maybe I came back at the right time. Amelia laughed. She didn't know why. But something about seeing him again felt strangely familiar, comfortable, like opening a book and discovering you had stopped reading only halfway through the story. That evening, one coffee became two became dinner, and dinner became hours of conversation. Neither of them noticed the time, but both of them noticed something else. The spark was still there. After that night, Michael started appearing in Amelia's life, not dramatically, not desperately, just consistently. Dinner, coffee, long conversations, evening walks. He listened when she spoke. He remembered the little things, and most importantly, he never asked her the question everyone else asked. When are you getting married? Instead, he asked, what do you want from life? And somehow, that question felt more intimate than any proposal. One evening, as they walked beside the waterfront, Amelia laughed at something Michael said. Then she suddenly stopped. You know what? I haven't laughed like this in a long time. Michael looked at her. Then I'll have to make sure you do it more often. Amelia smiled. She looked away, because something was happening, something she wasn't ready to name, and perhaps that was exactly what frightened her. But happiness rarely stays private for long. People noticed, friends noticed, family noticed, and soon, the questions started again. Is Mikkel going to marry her? Why is he taking so long? She's already 32. What is he waiting for? Every message, every comment, every family conversation slowly began turning something beautiful into something frightening. One night, Amelia sat alone in her bedroom, scrolling through her phone. Another wedding photograph, another engagement, another pregnancy announcement. She locked her phone. The room became silent, and suddenly, she wasn't thinking about Mikkel anymore. She was thinking about time. What if everyone was right? What if Michael didn't really want her? What if she had waited too long? What if she was destined to grow old alone? Amelia placed her phone beside her, then whispered, I don't want to be someone's second choice. She didn't know. Michael had already made his choice years ago. He had simply never told her. That night, rain-covered Lagos. Michael had asked Amelia to meet him on the rooftop. She almost didn't go, but something in his voice told her this wasn't another ordinary evening. When she arrived, he was standing beneath an umbrella, waiting. Michael, what's going on? He looked at her for a long moment, then stepped closer. Do you know why I came back? Amelia shook her head. Because I spent years building the life everyone told me I should want. He paused, and somehow, every time I imagined the future, there was still one person missing. Amelia's eyes began to fill with tears. Michael? He gently shook his head. Let me finish. The rain continued falling around them. I don't love you because you're 32. He stepped closer. I don't love you because it's time for you to get married. A tear escaped Amelia's eye. I love you because you're Amelia. Silence. The woman who challenges me. The woman who makes me laugh. The woman who somehow stayed in my heart even when I was thousands of miles away. Amelia looked at him, and suddenly, all the voices in her head became quiet. The next morning, Amelia stood by her window watching Lagos wake up. For years, she had allowed other people to define what happiness should look like. A husband by 30, children by 35, a perfect family, a perfect timeline. But standing there, she finally understood something. Her life wasn't a race. She wasn't late, she wasn't broken, and she wasn't incomplete. She simply hadn't met the person who made love feel like home. Until now, Amelia smiled. For the first time, she wasn't choosing marriage because she was afraid of being alone. She was choosing love because she wasn't afraid anymore. Months passed, their relationship grew stronger. And then, one evening, Michael asked Amelia to meet him at the same rooftop where he had confessed his feelings. She arrived expecting dinner. Instead, she found candles, hundreds of them, white roses, soft music, and Michael waiting at the center of it all. Amelia looked around. Michael, what's this? He smiled, then slowly walked toward her. He took her hand and lowered himself onto one knee. Amelia's breath caught. Michael opened a small velvet box. Inside was a diamond ring. Amelia Johnson. She covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. I've spent years building businesses. He smiled. But the best thing I've ever built, he paused, is the courage to finally tell you how much I love you. Amelia laughed through her tears. Will you marry me? For a few seconds, she said nothing. Then she looked at him and smiled. Yes, I will marry you. Michael stood. She threw her arms around him. And as they embraced, the city glittered beneath them. For once, Amelia wasn't thinking about age, or pressure, or what people would say. She was simply happy. 6 months later, the same people who once whispered about Amelia were now standing to watch her walk down the aisle. She looked radiant, not because she had finally become a wife, but because Esh had finally stopped believing she was incomplete without one daughter to the altar. Michael waited for her. Their eyes met, and suddenly, all those years of waiting made sense. The questions, the heartbreak, the loneliness, the fear, every moment had brought her here. Michael took her hands. I promise to choose you. Amelia smiled through her tears. Not because the world expects me to. He squeezed her hands. But because every day, I will choose you again. Amelia whispered, and I choose you too. The room erupted in applause. And just like that, Amelia Johnson became a wife. But that wasn't the most important thing that happened that day. The most important thing was that she finally understood her own worth. Months later, Amelia stood Bessedemical on their balcony. Lagos stretched endlessly before them. The city was alive, beautiful, unforgiving, just like life. Michael reached for her hand. She smiled, and for a moment, there were no questions, timelines, or expectations, only two people who had found each other when they were finally ready. Because sometimes love doesn't come when the world says it should. Sometimes it comes when you stop searching for it. And sometimes the person you thought you had forgotten is the person your heart never stopped remembering. So, if you're wondering whether Amelia was too late, the answer is no. She was never late. She was simply living her story at her own pace. And perhaps that is the most beautiful thing about love. It doesn't follow a calendar, it follows the heart. If Amelia's story touched your heart, tell us in the comments. Would you have waited for Michael? Or would you have chosen a different path? And remember, never let someone else's timeline convince you that you're late in your own life. Subscribe for more emotional African love stories, where every heart has a story and every silence has a secret.